Today on Pots and Trowels we're sowing vegetable seeds, which is brought to you with the support of Mr Fothergill's Allett and Cobra garden. Hello and welcome to Pots and Trowels. I'm in the greenhouse today where I'm going to be sowing some seeds to give these veg plants a bit of a head start. Sadly though, it's the last time we're going to be filming in the greenhouse and the garden, but don't worry, we're still going to be with you every week on Pots and Trowels, bringing you lots of hints and tips and things to do in your garden. The reason for the change is Jill and I decided back in the autumn that we wanted a new project. We want to create a new garden. So we've sold up and we move very, very soon, but we haven't found the project yet, but we will be living locally and we've got gardens that we can use. So we're still with you. You've not got rid of us that easily. So today I'm going to sow some seed. Just before we do, just a little bit of a recap on some of the things we did a few weeks ago. If you remember, we sowed some early tomatoes, which I pricked out. So these are now coming on nicely. These are now in the greenhouse. They started life on a windowsill in the house in a little propagator, but I've now brought them out here because they needed it a little bit cooler. I keep the greenhouse just frost free, and the peppers here are just starting to grow and at that perfect stage now where I'm going to prick them out and put them into similar sized pot to these, about a 3.5 inch pot. So they'll provide lovely strong plants for my new greenhouse in a couple of months time. Other things are growing. The shallots have been put in there. They'll be starting to root. The runner beans have just started to push through. You can just see those little shoots there. It's a dwarf variety called Robin Hood, so they're going to be for the new veg plot as well. And then I've got all sorts of things growing. The potatoes are chitting. We've got some salads that we've been sowing. So I've been busy over the last couple of weeks getting things ready, but I want to do a little bit more sowing now. So a couple of things that I want to sow today. One is peas. Now normally I would sow the peas directly into the garden, but we're going to need a week or two to get the new veg plot ready. So I'm going to give them a bit of a head start, and I'm going to do them in some of these cell trays. It works really well. Lots of people do it this way and get great results. So this is a fairly dwarf variety, only grows to a couple of feet tall, a pea called Onward. It's an old variety, but really reliable, good cropping pea. So I'm just going to open the packet there. I filled this with some multi-purpose, and literally what I'm going to do is with my dibber, you could use your finger, I'm going to put a couple of holes in each of these. If they were smaller plugs, I'd only put one. If they were bigger, I might even put 3. But we often sow peas fairly closely together. I won't do them all now. And what I'm going to do is very simply is I'm just going to drop a pea into each of those holes. I might have to push it down a bit. Just drop a pea down there so that they've got about 1/2 inch of compost on top of them, and then they'll be just covered over lightly like that, watered, and they will germinate very quickly, and we'll get lovely short stocky pea plants about probably 3 or 4 weeks time. Perfect then to plant out into our garden. So we're going to start the peas off like that, and the other thing that I'm going to do is to start some leeks off. Leeks work very well this way. I normally do my leeks in trays like this. Perfect time to sow them now. Here we are, getting on in March, so I'll sow them in trays like this and just put a seed in each of these plugs. And I'm also going to start some early cabbage off, and we don't want too many cabbage at once. I'll do lots of leeks because they stand well, but cabbage soon goes over, so I tend to do just 6, 10 at the most cabbage at any one time, but then I'll sow some more in maybe a couple of months time. So the idea is we'll have a continuous supply of fresh cabbage through the summer, autumn and winter of different varieties. So I've just filled this little tray. These trays I've had years and just keep recycling them time and time again. So I'm just going to make a very small hole there, and then I'm going to get the cabbage seed here. Now this is a variety which is called Sherwood. I've chosen this variety Sherwood because I think it will go well with the broad beans, the variety Robin Hood. So this is a lovely early summer cabbage. So this is one we can enjoy sort of through the first part of the growing season, and I'm just going to put the seeds on there, and they're just about big enough, these are, to handle individually if you take a bit of care, and you normally get a really good germination with cabbages. So I'm just going to literally drop 1 seed per hole, I'm struggling to see what I'm doing because Mrs. Fish is in the way with a camera. So I'm just going to drop one seed. Look at that, that's perfect. I've got exactly the right amount of seeds out there. And then just brush them over so the compost goes in the hole. They will obviously be given a drink of water with a fine rose on there. And then of course we need to write a label and stick a label in there so we know exactly what they want. And then they will just go on the tray in the cool greenhouse. As long as it's frost free, they will germinate without any problems, and we'll get nice strong seedlings that we can then harden off in a cold frame and get them ready for planting out, probably about late April time when the weather's warming up. So it's a good way to start all sorts of things. So you can do spring onions the same, all your lettuces the same way, pak choy, chard, even beetroot you can start in plug trays, so you've got plants ready to go in the garden at a later date. I also want to show you something else. So I'm just going to have a wander down to the orchard because I want to cut some bits of wood off one of the apple trees. One of the things I really enjoy doing is grafting fruit trees, and it's something I was taught to do when I was a student back at college, over 40 years ago now, and I always try to graft a few different trees every year. And the trees that we've got in our orchard here came with us from our old garden when we came here 12 years ago, and I grafted them when we knew we were moving, so we'd got the start of a new orchard. So they've done really well, and we've had some good crops off them over that time. What I want to do is to take some graft wood off these so I can graft a few more, so when we do find our new garden and start to create it, I've got the trees ready to plant in it. And grafting is really very simple. It's the sort of thing, if you want to have a go, you can do yourself. You do need some root stocks, and you can often buy those from nurseries, or if you find a fruit grower, then they will supply you with root stocks. There are various types, so a little bit of research, but I'm going to put mine onto a root stock which is called an MM106, which is semi-vigorous, so it will produce a tree of about this size. But if you wanted a smaller tree, then you'd need to get a dwarfing rootstock. It's a little bit early to graft at the moment. I prefer to graft sort of as we get just into April, so another couple of weeks before we can do it. But now is the time to get the graft wood. We want the graft wood to be dormant, and essentially what graft wood is this new growth off a tree. So if I just cut a couple of pieces off there like that, this is a Bramley apple tree. It's a very special Bramley apple tree actually, because this is a clone of the original Bramley apple which still grows in Southwell in Nottinghamshire. And the tree was given to me by a dear friend, Celia Stevens, when she moved house. This tree left her garden and was put in mine, and then we've grafted since. So it's a special Bramley, but this is 1 year old growth from the tree, and that's exactly what we need to graft. We don't want the old gnarled wood, we want the growth made last year. So if you're going to have a go, cut some stems off. Now what I need to do with these, I'll cut a few more, I'll bundle them up, put a label on them so I know exactly what they are, and then you've got the choice of two things. You could either put them into a pot of compost, just push the bottom inches into a pot of compost, keep it moist and on a north facing wall where it's as cold as possible, or what I'll probably do is put them in the bottom of the fridge in a polythene bag, so again it keeps them cool. We want to keep these nice and dormant until we graft. So if you want to have a go, get your graft wood now and we'll graft together in 2 or 3 weeks time. So I'm just going to cut a few more. Well, thank you for watching Pots and Trowels, and although I said that Jill and I are moving shortly, I can't resist one final look around the garden. So join us next week for a trip down memory lane. We'll see you then. Bye.